This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are back to discuss the NBA draft. We break down the biggest surprises of the draft. We talk about really the top 10 picks, what we thought was right, maybe what was wrong. Then we switch our focus to baseball, and we do discuss the Reds. After neglecting them last week, we discuss them this week and discuss, are they truly in it to win it? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben. That's Josh. There's only two of us this week. But it's light outside for me, which is like a rarity. You know, when Ben has light outside or like light in the room that's other than just a light,
that it's very light over here.
You know that it means that like we're actually doing it at a time when Ben's not like half asleep.
Yeah,
which is great. So Josh, how are you doing that bright morning over there, sir, at 8 a.m.?
So kind of funny story on that. Do you know about the Canadian wildfires going on right now?
Yes, I've heard about them. Yes.
So Northern Ohio right now is under a air quality advisory. It looks like it's foggy outside. Apparently it's smoke from wildfires. So
dude,
there's a little bit of a haze outside yesterday, and I even noticed some yesterday, and I was like, oh, I guess it's just gonna rain today maybe or something like that. But no, it's smoke. So
see, on top of that, I live here in Budapest in Europe. I don't have to worry about wildfires to getting smoke inhalation in my brain. It's freaking people smoking cigarettes over here. So I understand what you mean by smog. I mean, there's literally smog from people just smoking over here, but no, it's just a joke. But no, I mean, and it's also crazy because I know Indiana just had a tornado as well. So that's like two things going on in the same, like, kind of the span of things. But no, we had a great episode last week, Josh. I don't know if you remember any of it, but I thought it was brilliant. Chris is just, he is a brilliant man when it comes to basically taking an audience for a ride. We don't know what the ride is half the time, but it was good. Is there anything that he said last week? We didn't really get to talk about it after we were done, but is there anything last week that he said you thought was like, wow, that's a very good point. We hadn't thought about it. Or we hadn't talked about it.
Not necessarily any one point, but the thing that I guess was news to me was the whole bit about Rayola's tape not being out there.
Yeah.
I tried to look for it after we were done, and I couldn't find any either.
Now, I wanted to talk about that because I know, like, we were just talking with him. Me and you didn't really get to talk about it. It's very fascinating to me because there's also a rumor that's come out lately that, like, he's obviously switched schools, that like high schoolers are coming out and saying like this dude was not a very good teammate. Like, he's a spoiled kid. Like, what do you think of that? Like, I know we both have played sports in high school, and that tends to, there is those players, like, we're used to it. But do you think this is a problem that is why Ohio State kind of ran away? Is that why USC kind of ran away? Do you think that is, or is it just a whole bunch of smoke and we're going to kind of see, the real him come out when he goes to college?
I don't really think that. Did Ohio State really run away?
I mean, they didn't really try hard to go back and get him, right? Because he decommitted and he didn't commit. They didn't really go back after him. That's what I'm saying. Like, not run away.
I think it's because they just like quickly got Aaron Nolan, so they were kind of like, okay, we got a guy now.
Yeah, I mean, because I know it could be all. I know there's that, but I just feel like when USC as well doesn't go after him, like Lincoln Riley, like, he's a quarterback genius as well as Ryan Day, like. I don't know. It just was fascinating to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me overblowing it, but it's just fascinating to me with Rayola, and the fact that you can't find his tape. That's also adds up to it as well to me.
And like I said on the pod last week, some of that not verified by like any legit reports or anything, but just some people on Twitter have said that one of the moves was legit, like his dad getting another job, so they relocated, and then another transfer was because that school that he had moved to was going to make him sit out for like half a season, which is weird. If you're changing a dress, you shouldn't have to do that. So some of those might have been legit. I don't know. But if that's the case, it makes a little bit more sense. But it does seem a little bit more so like when you can't find tape and when you're getting moved around all the place, that's usually on the parents. So I don't know what his dad's doing. It reminds me, but I would put it mostly on his dad.
Yeah.
More the blame on his dad than Dylan himself. If we wanted to like point a finger at somebody.
You know what this reminds me of? I don't know if you remember the Reyna story I talked about a little bit, like back a few months. It was back in February. I talked about how Reyna and Berhalter, the head coach for the U.S. Men's soccer national team, had like that beef or whatever, and then the parents were accusing the coach of something, whatever. This is what it reminds me of, like the idea of a dad just overstepping maybe at times. And we don't know obviously the situation, but it's fascinating. But enough with talk from last week, Josh. Enough with talk. We're going to move on to, I guess we are still going to talk about stuff that happened last week. But let's first start with the NBA draft. I know you had some thoughts on it and some things you want to talk about. We kind of previewed it in a way that like it happened after we recorded, but still.
I did not realize that it was happening the day before after we recorded.
I didn't realize that
That's
either.
That's how tapped out of the NBA
I know,
I've been.
because like I remembered, I was like, oh, it's this week. I was like, I think it's like Friday, and I'll get the episode out by Friday. And then I was like, dang, never mind. So yeah, it's fascinating. So what is your thoughts kind of on the NBA draft as you look at it as a whole over the past week?
Looking through, I don't think we saw a lot of shock.
No.
We were curious whether or not Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson was going to be there at 2.
Scoot.
Yeah. So the Charlotte Hornets went with Brandon Miller there, and then the Portland Trail Blazers ended up getting Scoot. The Thompson Twins go 4-5.
Which is weird. That was weird.
That's kind of like how I saw it projected, though, in most mock drafts, was those guys were going to be in the top 5 in some order, one way or another. But since that's not really a shock, I don't think we really have to discuss anything, but figure we could talk about a couple picks that we were excited to see where they fall, starting with the Cavs pick in the second round, getting Imoni Bates.
Yeah, I will mention before Imoni Bates, one guy that was shocked, and there was one shock for me, was Cam Whitmore from Villanova. The dude went to 20. Like, this dude was projected top 8. Now they're saying that there was some injury concerns. But I'm like, dude, and the weirdest one, and I heard a lot of people talking about this, was when the Magic just basically ruined both of their picks. Like, I guess they just, like, the 2 guys they got, there's so many better dudes out there. They were even saying, like, at 11, they could have gotten Cam Whitmore at 11, which you never thought he'd be sitting there. You could have got Grady Dick. And there's so many other dudes. And I know that even people are saying they got Jet Howard, and they're like, yeah, you could have got him at like 20. Like, like, and I think, Josh, we've talked about this in the NFL draft. Sometimes these teams, like, the coach just has a mindset of like, this is the type of guy I want. I don't care where it is. I'm going to take him. Or the GM does this. And I just think it's mind boggling. If you're going to do that, then just trade back. Like, save yourself some money, because now you're paying these guys more than maybe what they're valued.
Yeah, better trade back than reach.
Yeah. And so there's a few things. I'll just briefly go over some shocks for me. The biggest, before we go into the old Cavaliers thing, because I think you'll have some thought of this. What'd you think of Trace Jackson Davis going second to last, by the way? That man going second to last from Indiana. The dude was dominant at Indiana, and he goes second to last. And maybe that's because the big man's kind of going away now, where like the traditional big man, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. What did he play all 4 years at IU too?
I think he played 3 or 4. Yeah, something like that. He played a lot.
Yeah, it seems like the NBA always favors like the freshman or sophomore that still has some untapped potential left. And when you're a star in the college game for 3 or 4 years or whatever it was, the NBA, I mean, they're like, okay, well, we're losing already 3 years out of his NBA career because of the extra time he played in college. And unless there was like significant improvement from 1 year to the next,
or if he's like 21, or if he was like 21 after 4 years.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, okay, has he already reached his ceiling? This is as good as he gets. Yeah. And
well, it's even like the maybe Toshiba too. Toshiba from Kentucky, is that his name? Shatibwa, whatever, Oscar, whatever his name is.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so he went undrafted and then got signed. I'm just like, dude, these dudes like, and that's probably why Eddie went back. So that's, I think, why Eddie went back, because he's like, look, I'm gonna probably not get drafted or get late second round. I might as well go back for a year, make some good money at Purdue, and then maybe get drafted higher next year.
Dude, that's crazy, dude. I didn't even think about that he didn't go.
Yeah.
That's a guy that at least in the college scene, they were talking about him in the NBA, what he's going to be doing, and then he doesn't even go.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it was very fascinating when you look at all these picks. Almost all of these picks are dudes that are maybe 19, 18, 19, 20, 21, and that's about it. You didn't see many old dudes. And so it's very fascinating for me in that. But going to what you said about the Cavs pick, I think getting Imoni Bates where they got him, by the way, at 49, when we talked about 4 years ago. Now, I know this guy's had a lot of off the court issues, But 4 years ago, we were talking about this dude being like a potential top 2 pick in the NBA draft in a few years. And you get him at 49 when, yeah, he's 6'9", about 110 pounds, I think. He's so skinny. But he reminds me of a Kevin Durant. Now, please, everyone don't hate on me in the comments. I'm not saying he is Kevin Durant. I'm saying he reminds me of a very tall, skinny type dude. What did I say last week the Cavs needed? What did I say? Wing play. I said they needed a 3 or a 4 that could stretch the floor. They got a 6'9" dude who's only like, I think he's only like 20 or 21 years old. I think that is a perfect fit for the Cavaliers. A lot of people have been hating on it, I think, because they're like, oh, he's off the court issues. Dude, we got rid of guys that had no off the court issues. And to be honest with you, it's the NBA. You're paying them millions of dollars. If you're not, just cut them loose, right? So it's not a risk. You got him in the 49th pick. So that's my thoughts. Also, I was kind of hoping they got to Keontae Johnson from Kansas State. Used to play at Florida. That would have also been a cool pick for them. But hey, I'll take Emoni Bates. What's your thoughts on Emoni Bates?
Basically, echoing everything you just said. When you're in the second round, most likely you're just going to draft a guy that you're going to cut in 2 years anyways. Yeah. Every now and then you land on a Nikola Jokic or a Draymond Green that sticks around the league and has several All-Star selections and stuff. Yep. You get a guy like that. So Emoni Bates, the ceiling's super high. Was the number 1, I think, recruit in his high school class at one point.
It wasn't even close.
Things didn't really work out in college, and even playing at Eastern Michigan, he didn't really look like he was a former number 1 recruit or anything like that. But the potential's there. The talent's there. We'll see if the Cavs staff can develop him and get that out of him. Maybe he can spend a little bit of time in the G League first, but
do a two-way player type thing.
Yeah. So for the 49th pick, I don't know how much better you could have gotten.
No, and I think you have Mitchell there. I think that'd be a great guy to mentor be underneath as a mentee. It's having both Garland and him who have been there that can maybe help out as well. So yeah, and I think touching on the second round. Also, just in general, did you see how many dudes from France got drafted this year? There was like 5 dudes from France.
I was gonna say, I think 4,
there were
maybe
so
5.
many. I was like, wow, the French are just pumping them out lately.
Yeah.
That's besides the point. What was the other pick? I know you had a big pick that I know Chris, if he was here, would have been really upset that where he got picked. Who would that be, Josh?
Figure we gotta talk about Bryce Sensabaugh.
Yeah,
going 28th to the Jazz, right?
Yeah, well, I'll let you go first because I have some thoughts, but I'll let you go first. What do you think of the positioning of that pick and then how he fits with the Jazz?
I really don't know where he probably should have gone because some mock drafts I saw him going as high as 14, but I saw some that had him as going late as the middle of the second round, which had me thinking as a Cavs fan, could we possibly get Bryce Sensabaugh? But rightfully so, goes in the first round, I think. Chris said, and I'm going to take his word on it, that he was playing out of position at Ohio State, maybe not really a point guard or whatever. I mean, his assist numbers would indicate that he's not really a distributor or anything like that. Yeah. But for 28, I think the Jazz did really well there. You're looking for guard play right now, right? Since you don't have Donovan Mitchell over there anymore. So maybe somebody that it's a really good value pick at 28 that could develop into a serviceable guy for the next several years for them. But I like to pick at 28. I would have liked it at 20.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like the issue with Bryce Sensabaugh is that he's kind of a bigger dude. He's like 6'6". He's probably about 220. He's a bigger, like he's a thicker dude. It reminds me a lot of the Spurs drafted our freshman from last year. Now I'm blanking on his name. But anyway, so that's 2 years in a row they've had a freshman picked. And both guys, it was kind of, they slipped a little bit more. And I think it's because they were more scorers, but they played out of position. Like Bryce Sensabaugh was playing at times the 4, at times the 1, at times the 3. Occasionally they put him at a 5 because they just need to go small ball. I think he's ultimately a 3, probably a 2 as well. Like, I think he can play 2 and 3. But if you're the Jazz, like, you should be stoked about this. Like, you get a dude that is very physical. I think he's going to be a great scorer. You give him a few years. They also, tie him up with Keontae George from Baylor. Those two dudes, I think, are going to be electric for the Jazz. I mean, with Markkanen, you have some of these other dudes, Jordan Clarkson, some of these guys, right, that you can kind of slowly bring in. I think with Bryce Sensabaugh, you need to slowly bring him in. I think you can't rush him, right? Like, it's fascinating to me, like, where he got drafted. Like, there's a dude from the got drafted by the Warriors named Brandon Podziemski from Santa Clara. Like, there's just dudes I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. But as a Ohio State fan, it's awesome to finally see Ohio State getting guys drafted back-to-back years. It's been so long since that's happened for Ohio State. I think this is great for the program because that gives you kind of a boost. If he would have fell to the second round, I would have been mind-boggled because I think that his talent is way better than a second-round talent. Like, I think he was injured part of the year as well with his knee injury, which kept a lot of people hesitant about him. When he's fully healthy, we saw it. Josh, you've seen it. When he's fully healthy, he's getting 25 a game, right? Like, he's putting up 25 and 8 rebounds a game, and that's what you need at a high level. Will he ever average 25 in the pros? Probably not. He'll probably be like a 15 and 6 kind of guy. But hey, in the NBA, you don't need a lot of 25-point guys. You just need one good scorer and a bunch of guys that can contribute as well.
Miami Heat system.
Yep. Exactly.
Right. Anything else NBA draft related?
I'm trying to think. Well, I thought it was interesting too that like there wasn't a ton of Euro dudes this year. I mean, outside of like the guys from France. Outside of that, there wasn't a ton of other countries. Like that was the weirdest thing. Like there's a guy from Nigeria originally, but he's from Barcelona. James Najai, who went to the Pistons. There was a guy from, I think, Serbia, another Serbian Tristan Vukovic, something like that. But other than that, I mean, you did have 2 dudes from the same French league team go in the top 10, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. So Wembanyama from Metropolitans. And then at 7, the Pacers drafted Bilal Coulibaly, who also is from the Metropolitans. So they had 2 dudes drafted in the top 7. But yeah. So what would you say, Josh, after a few years of this experiment, is Overtime Elite and G League Ignite, is it worth having to produce good ball players? What is your thoughts? Is it worth it? Or should we go back to either go straight out of high school or go to college? I feel like it's just weird with this whole like weird 1-year team thing.
They are limiting it to like the most elite prospects that can go to the G League, I think. So that's a good place to start right there. I know as a college hoops fan of March Madness, I kind of miss seeing some of those guys. Like there's not as much superstar talent there.
Hey, I don't mind if they go one. I don't mind if they're one and done, man. It's just exciting for that year. Like I'll take it.
Yeah, like do we get RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, and Zion Williamson all on the same team?
No
like
way.
If that was a thing when they were playing in the 2018-19 season, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess to me, I'm gonna have to wait a little bit longer because I honestly don't know how much some of these G League guys have panned out in the league yet. There's probably some that people are going to scream at me for not knowing, but
well, also, how do you think the Hornets
not many household names yet?
My biggest thing about like Scoot Henderson's just a very great player. He'd be number 1, I think, in any other draft. What were the Hornets thinking? I like this is just my personal opinion. I don't understand why they picked Brandon Miller when you have Scoot Henderson just sitting there. The Blazers are off the moon right now, but I just thought it was fascinating. So you took Brandon Miller, but
Charlotte also, dude, has a long history in our lifetime of failing at drafting bigs.
I know.
They fail. I mean, who are some of the guys that have flopped there? They got Frank Kaminsky and Kid Gilchrist and Cody Zeller. And
I mean, you go back to Morrison, Charlotte Bobcat days from Gonzaga.
Well, he's not really like a big. He was like a wing guy.
Yeah, he was a wing guy. Yeah.
That's kind of like what I'm getting at is like this long history of bigs that they take. It's like, I don't know if it's a development thing or a scouting thing.
Emeka Okafor was like their last good big guy they drafted.
And that was when they were the Bobcats too. Wild.
It is wild. But I mean, Zeller might have been their best one. He wasn't even a first-round pick, I don't believe. I think he was a second-round pick.
Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, hopefully Brandon Miller can get it figured out. Maybe they finally land on one.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah. Yeah, after Chris's I guess evaluation and praise for Scoot Henderson, I thought he was definitely going to.
That's what I thought. With that, Josh, the draft is over. We're gonna have Summer League coming up, which is gonna be exciting to watch. But that leads us into talking about some other fun things. Josh, what is on the table? What is on the docket, as they would say back in the old days?
Man, so I think we got to start off with an apology to all of our Cincinnati Reds fans last week for not even giving them a mention when they were in the
Dude,
middle of a
not even a
double-digit win
mention.
streak.
Didn't even say a word.
We had Chris on, so we wanted to
I
like stick
tried, dude.
to.
I was trying so hard, and I'm like, there's no good spot.
Yeah, we used Chris's knowledge of the NBA and college football that week to talk about those topics. But yeah, since we have been on last, the Reds win streak did come to an end, but they picked it back up with the win over Baltimore last night.
Yeah.
Ben, I saw Ellie De La Cruz hit for the cycle.
You know,
crazy.
I'll say this. Rich Eisen said this. I don't know if how many of you listen to Rich Eisen. He was talking about how, like, if you watch that cycle, all right, watch when he hits the triple, go back and watch it. Watch the fans' reaction when he gets to third base. Josh, you've been in Ohio, you know, a long time, most of your life, right? And you've been to Guardians games. I'm sure you've been to a Reds game or two. I could tell you this from someone who went to Reds games my whole life. This is the most excited I've ever seen Reds fans since maybe the 2010 when we won the first division title since 1990, maybe then, but even more than that. Like Joey Votto's even come out and said, like, this is the most exciting he's ever like been around in Cincinnati. I mean, they sold out 3 straight games against the Braves. Yeah, they won 1 game. Dude, I don't care. This is resurgence in the city that started Major League Baseball, right? The very first professional team in baseball in America was in Cincinnati. And so for me, by the way, watching Ella De La Cruz play, now I'm saying this, by the way, after he's now gone 0 for his last 12, but we don't talk about that. He's still hitting like 300. All right. But when he hit for that cycle, I don't know. Did you listen to the call, by the way? That call was epic.
I was watching the game, dude. Yeah. I noticed that in like the second or third inning, it was already a 5-4 game or something like that. So I was like, oh man, we got a shootout here. And then by the 6th inning, there was 7 homers hit or something like that.
Yeah. And then I love the call when he's like, it's the cycle. I mean, that call will reign in my head he's like, Ella, what he said something like some amazing thing that I'm now mad that I do not remember what he said. But anyways, they called him a great nickname. But this is what I would say. The Reds during that 12-game win streak, if you watch the Reds game, right? Josh, if you sat down and watched the Reds game, you look at this team, and yeah, it'd be fun to watch. But you're like, there's no way they should have won 12 in a row. Like, they have no starting pitching right now. Like, literally, they're throwing out dudes that I've never heard of because they're all hurt. They have Abbott, who just comes out, who no one knew really outside of Reds fans. He's now 4-0 with like a 1.21 ERA, right? You have Spencer Steer, who's come out of nowhere this year. It's got 12 bombs, 46 ribbies. Jake Fraley, as we call him, Rakin Fraley. But he's now got 12 home runs, 47 RBIs. Friedel, India, Ella De La Cruz. You know, you name these guys. And Rich Eisen said it great. He said, the joy of baseball is back in Cincinnati. It's truly back. We actually, my wife and I have tickets to go to a Reds game with my family. When we're back in the States, we're going to go for a game. Why? Because this might be the moment. I don't know. Do I think they're going to win the division? My gut tells me no. Why? Because I'm a Reds fan. And dude, I've had these moments before where it gets really
that
exciting.
Division is up for grabs right now.
It is.
Legit.
I mean, I would say this. I thought
the Cardinals were a surefire winner before the season started, and right now it looks like anybody could win.
I will say this. I think it's going to come down between the Reds, the Cubs, and the Brewers. I think those will be the 3 teams that it comes down to. I think the Reds, they need to go out and get starting pitching. Do not be shocked you see the Reds trade some of those good pieces to get a couple starters. Because I'm telling you, dude, I've said on the podcast the last year, like I always say the Reds suck, right? That's my thing, right? I come on and say the Reds suck. This is the first time in probably 2 or 3 years that I'm like excited to watch Reds baseball. Like I hate when I miss the highlights or I hate when I miss watching it. Drives me nuts. But man, I don't know about you, man. I know you don't really watch the Reds, but even when you watch that game, like it had to give you some excitement, man, just to watch baseball thrive in Ohio and Cincinnati again. Like it. Give me your thoughts, because as not a Reds fan, like as not a biased fan, it was really fun to watch. You had to agree.
There are just so many good players on the field that game, dude. Like with Atlanta, you're getting to watch Albies and Acuna and Olsen and Austin Riley, and then on the Red side, it's like Joey Votto is healthy now and also hitting tanks. He hit that night. And then
his on base percentage, by the way, his average is like 230. His on base percentage is like 460. Like he's getting on base.
Always gets walks. Yeah. And then, yeah, De La Cruz, dude, I seen
unreal, dude.
I think I missed the double, but I did see the home run. I saw the single,
man.
And then he's coming up to bat. At this point, he's 3 for 3, I believe. And they're like, he needs to hit a triple. And as soon as he makes contact and I see it go in the gap, I'm like, it's the triple. And then he runs the bases, I think, and gets to third in 10.8 seconds. And then I've listened to a couple other podcasts this week about the Elly De La Cruz cycle, and everyone else kind of had the same thought I did. Is like, as soon as he made contact and saw where the ball was headed,
he wanted it.
He knew it was a triple because of how fast he is.
I mean, I just love his whole thing where he just does this every time he gets a hit, and they just like he just does the whole sword. But the crazy part is that guess what? He's 8 for 9 stolen bases. The only time he got caught stealing was when he tried to steal home. Like this man, like Rich Eisen said this. He said he's like the AI. He's the player you create in MLB The Show. He's the guy you create. He's got a lot of power and got a lot of speed, right?
Yeah.
He's 6'6". And you're like, well, he's like O'Neal Cruz. I'm like, please do not compare Elly De La Cruz to O'Neal Cruz. Please don't. They're not the same player. Like, yes, O'Neal Cruz is a big dude. He's a shortstop.
What you see is like two tall, lanky guys that have freakish power and freakish speed and freakish defense. And
yeah, but I think
that actually leads me into the player comps I've been hearing. And have you heard the Mickey Mantle comparison?
Yeah, I did actually. I did.
I don't know if I like that one. I'm also not 90 years old, so I don't know what Mickey Mantle's skill set was exactly. I also know he only had 20 more career stolen bases than Babe Ruth. So to me, that doesn't really indicate speed or an ability to steal bases. Yeah. I personally like the younger Barry Bonds comparison.
That's what I was thinking too.
I was trying to find a guy, and like Barry, when he was like in his 4th or 5th season in Pittsburgh, he hit over 30 home runs. He had over 100 RBIs. He stole over 50 bases. He slashed like 300 batting, 400 on base, 500 slugging.
People forget how good he was before the Giants debacle.
Yeah,
people forget how good he was.
Yeah, maybe Barry didn't have like the same frame, and I mean, you gotta remember Barry. Yeah, before he started getting on roids and then just turning into this NASA rocket station launching tanks into McCovey Cove. Yeah, but I like a younger Barry Bonds as a comparison. If you wanted to find one, I don't know if we're ever
to be honest,
that you can point to.
I've said you can't. Like I to me, you find me someone that's 6'6", can hit a ball 460 feet and run from home to third base in 10.8 seconds.
Yeah,
tell me someone. There is no one on this planet that, like, he's doing stuff even Ohtani is not doing, and Ohtani is the best player in baseball, right? Like, to me, Elly De La Cruz, watch him throw a ball from shortstop to first base. How do you see the ball? I played first base. It was hard to see the ball coming from across the diamond, especially in the sun and stuff. That dude throws it like 100 miles per hour across the home from shortstop to first. But yeah, to answer your question, man, a lot of people were asking me, I've had friends ask me, like, how far do you think the Reds will go? And my true opinion on this is it depends on their pitching, and it depends on, do the rookies stay hot? Because we have learned is Matt McClain is legit. I'm tired of people saying that Matt McClain should not be starting shortstop. It should be Elly De La Cruz. Put Elly De La Cruz at third base. I don't care. Put India in third base. Put McClain at second. Matt McClain is the best hitter and might be the best ball player right now on this ball team. And I know that's a bold statement, but the man is hitting man's hitting over 300. He's almost has a 400 on base percentage. He hit a bomb last night. By the way, that was like over 400 feet. The dude's like 5'9". I mean, the dude's tiny, and he hit a double for an RBI last night. To me, yes, Elly De La Cruz in 2 years will be the best player in the Reds. Might be the best player in baseball right now. Jonathan India, yeah, he's doing great. Like, he's doing solid, but the way Matt McClain changes ball games with the way he hits and stuff, he's the first Reds, and he's the first rookie since who was it? First Reds rookie since Sabo to hit 4 extra bases in one game, 4 extra base hits. He has an on-base streak of 19 games in a row where he's been on base. I mean, the guy's legit. So it'll be interesting to see what the Reds do at the trade deadline coming up. I really hope they don't trade any of these pieces. I say just stick with the team you got. I think Joey Votto, you keep him around. He's been a great veteran leadership the last few weeks. You keep him around, let him do his thing, then let him walk after this year. Obviously, he'll be out of contract, but yeah, man, I know that's a lot there, but I hope that sums up what you asked, and I hope you can add on to it if you need to say there.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in because I think the Reds are definitely ahead of schedule.
Oh
And
yes, for sure.
do you make a trade at the deadline to maybe get a starting pitcher just so that you're capable of winning one round
One
of the
playoff game,
playoffs
yeah, like one playoff
and
game.
risk the future of being able to have all those guys develop together and then maybe becoming a more lethal force than what you would have otherwise? That's the tough thing that every GM struggles with, and
it's just
always
tough because
debates on what to do.
It's just tough with the fact that they're starting dudes, like they're only going 3 innings, man. Like it's like, by the way, I did not say this in my talk about the Reds in my blabber. Okay, I'm just making up for the fact that I didn't get to talk about him last week. But Alexis Diaz, I don't know if you've seen his numbers this year. Dude is a stud. The man is 23 of 23 for save opportunities. He's now, I think, got 27 in a row since last year, or 28 in a row since last year. The dude has, like, he's unhittable. His stuff is nasty. And by the way, yes, it's the brother of Edwin Diaz. Imagine those two to finish out your bullpen. Imagine having one and then the other. It's mind blowing. But Alexis Diaz has been a bright spot. Lucas Sims as well. The bullpen's been very good. It's the starters that I've worried about. So if I would say 3 things they need to upgrade, they need to get a better starter, maybe an extra bullpen arm, maybe another utility guy. But hey, you know what? We have a catcher hitting over 200, so we're making it.
Yeah. I'm still waiting to see Bo Naylor get some hits in Cleveland, but the important thing is that he's up on the big league roster.
They listen to you, Josh. They listen to you.
That they waited way too long. I don't think they really listened. I think they just did it when they felt like it. But Bo actually threw out two guys trying to steal last night.
I saw that.
Some rockets.
Dude's got a cannon, man. Dude's got a cannon.
Yeah, so I think regardless if he figures
how much do you bet they turn them into first baseman? How much do you bet in like a year?
Here's the thing: if he doesn't hit over 200, they might just keep him at catcher, dude.
I know that's the thing, man. You don't hit over 200. It's a guardian in the contract as a catcher. Yeah. You're required to hit under 200. Like you can't
hit over 200. You got to switch positions. And his brother Josh is already over at first base, so I don't know what that means. Could be a crazy family drama situation over there.
Oh man. Your Guardians, man. Do you want to start your thing? Like I said, the Reds suck. Do you want to say the Guardians suck, or are you at that point yet?
I've been at that point. They're starting to slowly call up some of these guys that I've wanted them to call up. They had Gavin Williams come up and throw 7 shutout innings last night. Bo's been behind the plate. I'm waiting for them to get Tyler Freeman in the lineup consistently. Maybe call up Raccio or trade him or figure out what they're going to do with the shortstop position. Will Brennan's coming around in the outfield. It's nice to see. I don't really have any expectations for the playoffs. They're a half a game behind Minnesota for that division right now.
Look, listen, the Centrals in both the National League and American League are awful.
American League Central, terrible. Awful. It's been terrible. That's why Cleveland's been able to win the division fairly easy the last several years.
Dude, in the AL East, if you finish last in the AL East, you could be winning. You could be winning the AL Central.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people are saying we should go away from like finishing where you do in your division to the best 5 records or whatever, or the 7 or 8 records, which I disagree with because I think division play matters. But
yeah, I think in the professional ranks like that, like just be better. I don't know.
Yeah, just suck it up. You suck.
Yeah, no relegation situations there, but yeah, Cleveland's been able to easily win that division, and it seems like they're just content with it, and even some fans are content with it. Like, what are you worried about? We're gonna win the AL Central again. And it's like, yeah, and then we're gonna get bounced in 3 games in the first round. So what's the point?
I mean, you listen. I remember when I was at Cedarville. We were both at Cedarville. I think you were at Cedarville at the time. When the Cubs played the Indians. Yes, I said the Indians. Okay, don't cancel me. When the Cubs played the Indians in the World Series, that was your guys' moment. Like that was like, does that still seep into you? Like of all these, like obviously last year and like this year, it's like, do you ever look back like middle of the season, go like we had it, like it's there, it was there for us to take.
It was there in the 2017 season. I felt like was even a better team.
Yeah,
But I guess I just got a taste of like what my parents and other older Cleveland fans got to see in the 90s when you had Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez,
Yeah.
Sandy Alomar all on the same team. And they played in 2 World Series then in 95 and 97. Ended up running into the Atlanta Braves team that had Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, and John
Dude,
Smoltz in the
that team is
rotation.
ridiculous.
And then 97 ran into a fairly new Florida Marlins new expansion team from a couple years prior that got really good really quickly and ended up losing to them too. And yeah, 2016 was, I mean, that's the peak of my Cleveland baseball fandom. Honestly, that's the only time I've ever gotten to see a team play in the World Series.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we got the Cavs
I
2016
know.
ring, so I've gotten to see a title.
Yeah. There we go. I
That
mean,
goes for you too.
that is true. I mean, I am a Cleveland. That's the weirdest part is people always, it's so funny when I tell people, yeah, I'm a Cleveland Cavs fan, Browns
Cleveland
fan.
Browns fan.
Oh, so you're a Guardian. No, I'm a Reds fan. That's just the way my dad was.
Mhm.
My dad was brought up a Reds fan, Browns fan, and then Cavs fan. So, but no, it is fascinating, man. I'm interested to see how the Guardians do and the Reds do. Like, people ask me, like, if the Reds don't make the playoffs, are you gonna be bummed out? I'm like, no, dude. I thought they were gonna lose 100 games this year. I thought they were gonna lose
We all
100
did.
games. Like, if they finish at 500 and don't make the playoffs, or they finish like maybe 6 games above or 6 games below, dude, I could care less. We have achieved something that I think many people thought would never have achieved. And the fact that the Cardinals are in last place just makes me so much more happy. And you know what's going to happen, Josh? I'm going to say this now. It's going on record now. The Cardinals will end up winning this division. You watch. The Cardinals will end up winning this division, and like in a couple months, they're going to be in first place. And I'm going to be telling on the record, be like, I told you so. It's going to happen. I hate to say it, but it's probably going to happen.
Well, let me tell you this, Ben. Out of all the last place teams in the league, the Cardinals are the closest to first place. They're only 8 games back.
I know, which is mind-boggling.
Boston is 13 games back.
Holy cow.
Kansas City is 17 games back. The A's are 28 games back.
Oh my God.
Washington is 21 games back, and the Rockies are 17 and a half games back.
Can we talk about the A's for a second? They have one exciting player, that Ruiz. I don't know if you've heard of this Ruiz guy that's got 40 stolen bases already. It's not even the All-Star break.
I have heard of him. Yeah, someone brought it up the other day.
But the thing is, his on-base percentage is only like 320. He's like Billy Hamilton all over again. The guy gets on
sounds
base
a lot like him.
because Billy Hamilton at that one. Remember when he got brought up was like stolen base king. I'm like, yeah, he could have 100 stolen bases a year if he would just get on base.
Yeah,
he gets on base like
he was only hitting like 250 or something like that.
And his on base percentage was like 230 at times. It was awful.
That threat was there though to run. It was always there.
So what do you think about the whole stolen base thing? Are you excited to see it back when they're getting like we have like 5 dudes with 20 stolen bases already?
I think some of that has to do with the rules. Someone mentioned that the bases like being larger and now how that like creates like 4 inches less space or whatever. I'm like, I don't think it's that. I think it's the fact that they can't be picked off as much as they could anymore.
And that's a big thing. Because as a pitcher, man, like I used to be I was the annoying pitcher, man. I threw over like 3 or 4 times. If I knew you could steal, I'd throw over like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So how many times of games did you watch, Josh, when you were younger, when they would throw over like 7 times in a row? It's just like step off
7 times in a row. Even still though, like before this rule change, I feel like when we were kids, we had guys like Ichiro and Jose Reyes, and a lot more guys were like moving around a little bit, and then we got moved to like the home run, being cool, and that's what everybody was going for.
No doubles, just
singles and home runs.
Kind of
going away. Speed was kind of going away, but now that the rules are kind of allowing it, I think that more teams, more players are trying to take advantage of that. And that actually leads me into a point, Ben, of viewership in baseball. The MLB reported that this weekend, I think it was the largest attended weekend in Major League Baseball since several years ago. Like, baseball doesn't seem to be dead, and it would appear that all the changes that they've been making with the pitch clock and the bases and everything is actually making more people interested in the game. Do you have a take on that? Is it working? Are we just old heads and hate change?
See,
or has it been good for the game overall so far?
No, I would say the bases I feel like could have stayed the same. Like that to me, like has no. I don't think that changed the game. I just think was like a way to have a safety thing in there. Okay, I will say that maybe the games going quicker has created more people to want to watch baseball, but it still sucks because I don't know. I like going to a baseball game for like 4 hours and just like hanging out at the ball game. I don't know, like games being done in 2 hours feels like I'm back in like Little League and like it's a 6 inning game and like then it's done, right? So no, to answer your question honestly, I think that shortening games and like having more of a speed type of like it makes it feel more like the NBA or like, football where everything's more fast paced. I think that's helped bringing more younger viewers, but I think you're still going to have a lot of the majority would be like, hey, I wouldn't mind if we took away something that has just been added, but hey, if it's doing your job, as we know, baseball is all about making money. I think it's fascinating with all these changes that a lot of teams are dropping like the pride movement a little bit as well. And more people are coming now since some of these things have been dropped, which I've read, which is not going to go into that. Josh and I won't go into that side of politics, but it is very fascinating that these kind of things have correlated to more people wanting to come to games and that such.
I got the numbers right here, actually. So MLB attendance is up 7.8% from last season. And the league announced that over 1.5 million fans attended games for the third straight weekend. That's the first time that's happened since 2017.
And it shows, man, like, I will always say this, and Josh, I think you can agree with me on this. No matter how big football gets, basketball, hockey, soccer, baseball will always be America's sport. It will always be the sport, I feel like, that unless you grew up with no idea of baseball, you can probably name a few different baseball players that are famous, right? I still think that baseball, to me, is obviously it's growing global. We saw it in the World Baseball Classic, Czech Republic coming out of nowhere and competing, right, with dudes that were plumbers, right? Like that's kind of cool. We see the game going to London, right, and which is weird to me. Like every time I look at the stadium, I'm like, this is such a soccer stadium. You can totally tell, like the field itself is just like very makeshift. But these kind of things I think create this new energy and new vibe about baseball that I think just brings people to the game, man. Like I know Great American Ballpark, their prices, even though the Reds are doing great, they didn't jack their prices up. If you notice, the teams that are doing well, a lot of them don't jack up their ticket prices, which is awesome to see, right? They're letting people go see the game, which I think is very, very important.
And I think you can do that when you have 162 games and it's not as exclusive.
Yeah, of course.
I will disagree with you on baseball being like America's game. I think that's still football. I think that it's going to be football.
I think you agree with me though. It's those two sports though. Like I feel like basketball is great and all, but I feel like if you think of America's history, what are the two sports that really kind of put a foothold into American sports culture? It was baseball and it was football. Basketball, yeah, it was exciting, but basketball didn't really feel like it picked up till the 60s maybe. Baseball had been around a lot longer since then, and football had been around a lot longer, right? And so that's why. But when people tell me that soccer is going to be America's favorite sport, I'm like, yeah, you're nuts. Yeah, go, yeah, go try.
Man,
sorry,
I mean, if it was ever going to be, well, it's going to be when Messi's here in the States. So
we're going to get started on that.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, yes. Baseball though, man. I guess I'm glad to see that some of the changes are working. I was doubtful. I thought that you would just turn away maybe some of your more like into it fans, the ones that actually care about it, and it wouldn't really draw much new audience. Maybe they'd watch one game and then that'd be it to see what the changes have done. But it seems to be working so far. So the jury is out, but looks like it's positive.
That is true. Well, Josh, I think we've talked about most everything we want to talk about today. But something that I think Josh and I are both very ashamed of, and we want to have a public apology to the audience out there. We did not do a top 5 last week. And I think we both need to apologize to our public because I've had many comments of how they've enjoyed Josh and I completely being opposite of 100% of everything that we've said. There is literally, I've went back and watched, there was maybe 2 things that were even semi-close to each other. Josh and I obviously have different brains in the way we think, but that's how God made us. So, Josh, are you ready for our top 5 today?
Let's do it, dude.
Okay. I will introduce
Tell them what we're talking about.
Yes, I will introduce it. So a fascinating thing came in my head the other day, right? We were talking about Wemby or Wembanyama. who got drafted by the Spurs. You know, they're saying he's a generational talent. So I thought, what about these other generational talents in sports that growing up we saw or we kind of witnessed them get drafted, that we thought after they got drafted, like, this is a guy that is like the most hype you can get, like the most hype any of these guys ever got in our minds. Now, this might not line up with what the public said, but maybe in our minds, like, this is a guy that I want to put all the hype around. Like, this dude's going to be legit. So we came up with a top 5 list. Now, Josh, do you think you're ready?
I'm ready.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, let's do it. Do you have any honorable mentions, or are you sticking with your 5?
Actually, no honorable mentions today.
No honorable mentions. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Not that you totally just remember that I did not tell you this until 5 minutes before we started.
Yeah. I'm gonna spoil a little bit. I'm not gonna have a lot of flops on my list, and that tends to be because I don't end up buying into the hype that everybody else does.
Because you're a party pooper.
I'm a party pooper. I'm a skeptic. I'm a hater, and most of the time I end up being right. But prospects that I've been excited about, or maybe these are guys that I was excited about way more than what everybody else was excited about. But number 5 here is probably the one that has been the least successful in the pros so far. It's going to be Chase Young.
Oh,
I love Chase Young. I love Chase Young in college. Got to watch him live a couple times. The final season at Ohio State where he set the sack records, just absolutely insane.
He got suspended.
Big freak athlete. And then at least up to this point, I mean, Washington's declined his 5th-year option, and it looks like he might be having to find a new team soon. So that's been maybe related to health. I know he did win Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think. So he started off okay, but would love to have seen Chase Young have a little bit more success in the NFL than he has now. But I was super excited to see him, up to the point where I even would have considered taking him over Joe Burrow first. And I'm pretty sure Bengals fans don't regret the Burrow pick in hindsight. I look kind of dumb for even thinking Chase first now. But yeah, Chase Young, number 5 for me.
I'm actually going to stick with you in a football one that I think obviously he didn't live up to the hype, and I still don't think he has lived up to the hype, and I don't think he ever will. But he did just play for the Browns. I think you might know where I'm going with this one. Defensive player, defensive end to be exact. That'd be Jadeveon Clowney. Ever since he took a Michigan's helmet off and destroyed him in that bowl game, I fell in love with the hype around him. Then I watched his tape, and I was just like, this man is not human. Then obviously he went to the NFL, and he hasn't. There's spurts, right? We've seen spurts of him, but we haven't seen him live up to that hype that everyone thought he was going to be the next big pass rusher. I wish he did it with the Browns. He didn't really do that at all. But Jadeveon Clowney for me is number 5, and that was like a very easy one for me because it wasn't someone that got overhyped, I think, or underhyped. It was kind of just, I think, right where it should have been, but maybe he didn't get really where he needs to be, I guess.
Yeah, number 1 pick. So, I mean, he's made some Pro Bowls, but you're expecting like Hall of Fame talent at number 1 overall, I feel like. And I don't know if he will be a Hall of Famer.
No.
And health was always getting in the way of him, just like it has Chase Young so far.
All right. Do you want me to go next? I'll go this one.
All right, 4. Who you got 4?
So this one, I'm going basketball. I would go LeBron James, but I feel like that's just not fair.
I was like 8.
Yeah,
what was I going to be hyped about?
Like what have I kids from Ohio?
I didn't know any hype for LeBron.
That kid's cool. That's awesome. No, for me, I was. So this is an interesting one because I didn't know, like, I didn't watch a lot of basketball outside of Ohio State basketball. Like I'd watch the tournament and everything, but for me, D'Angelo Russell was like the guy that I was just like, dude, this dude, what he did at Ohio State, the triple doubles he had, like just what he did in general. And I kind of want to put this in the same sense because I had these two of the same realm. Is Evan Turner's the same thing for me? So I was old enough to really, because I was in high school-ish time frame. And so both, I think, for me at this 4 spot would be Evan Turner and D'Angelo Russell from Ohio State in the same kind of realm because they got drafted, I think, the same spot, I believe. I think they did. D'Angelo Russell got drafted what?
Second,
yep. And I think Turner did as well. So for both of them, for me, that just for them at that moment, they both were high state players. I was super hyped about them, both super talented, dominated the college game at their level. And I thought D'Angelo Russell going to the Lakers with Kobe, like this is going to be like the perfect fit. Ended up being an awful fit. And he kind of has struggled. Now he has a resurgence. I think you can agree. D'Angelo Russell's kind of come back to where we thought he might be. Maybe not as good, but where we thought he might be. The year in Brooklyn was awesome. So to me, number 4 most hyped I've been around a prospect would be D'Angelo Russell and / Evan Turner, if you count him there.
Ohio State basketball players.
Yes. Those are the only ones I have. I don't have the rest of them are all there. So,
okay. Number 4 for me is also a basketball player and is kind of linked to another former Ohio State hot prospect. Number 4 for me is Kevin Durant.
Oh.
And everybody knows the story of that season. Yep. Who's going to be number 1, Greg Oden or Kevin Durant? Greg Oden, Kevin Durant. And to me, 12-year-old Josh, the clear choice was Kevin Durant. I thought Oden mostly just was good in college because he was big. And once he got to college, or not to college, the pros, that he was going to be matched up with guys that were much more his size. And it was going to be maybe a tough time transitioning for him. Whereas Kevin Durant was like the skill guy that could score 30 points a game. It was like, okay, Kevin Durant, he's going to be the guy. And I mean, in hindsight, Kevin Durant has been the guy. Greg Oden, health was never a concern in college. And then all of a sudden he got to the NBA and never really got to even stay on the court. Those big centers, man, it's something that Chris brought up last week is why he stays away from unicorns and wouldn't even draft Wemby first overall. Definitely a controversial hot take right there from him. But Kevin Durant, to me, that was the guy that the only basketball prospect I ever really was excited about was when I was a younger kid. And I'll have one more on this list later on that we'll talk about. But yeah, Kevin Durant, number 4 for me.
Who's number 3 for you? Who's number 3?
Number 3, we go to the baseball scene. And
I'm good, dude. We're on the same thought process.
We're on the same leagues.
We're just going the same leagues here.
So number 3 to me is a kid that graduated high school early with a GED and was playing JUCO baseball when he was a 15 and 16-year-old. Something that I had never heard of. I was like, what the heck is going on? How can this kid be playing like top prospect talent at this young of an age? Then gets to the bigs when he's 19 and has only lived up to the hype, and that's Bryce Harper.
Dude, I would go in the exact same space as you.
Same space, yes. Bryce Harper. Like there every now and then, I feel like baseball's top prospects always hit way more often than football's and basketball's top prospects. I mean, you can go through the list of like all the hot names coming up. De La Cruz looks like he's going to be living up to the hype, and Mike Trout has lived up to the hype, and Shohei Ohtani coming from Japan has lived up to the hype, and Bryce Harper has lived up to the hype, and we could probably name several other guys, but Bryce Harper at number 3 for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Bryce Harper. Like that wasn't even a question for me. The only spot I had to figure out was where I was gonna put him in my list because Bryce Harper. I remember as a kid, I think he came up in 2009. No, 2012. Did he come up in 2012? I think
it was the 2010s. I know that because I was in high school.
It was early in, I think, the 2010s, and I remember him coming up. And first off, it's so funny to look at a picture from him from then to now because he had no beard and he looks really weird. But the dude like was electric, man. Like he brought the city of Washington, D.C., the same thing that De La Cruz is bringing to the city of Cincinnati. Hype, energy, excitement, something they hadn't seen in a long time. And I think Bryce Harper has delivered on that. Now, could he be maybe a little bit better than what he is now? Of course. But there's only a handful of dudes that have been better than him. Mike Trout is just not human. All right. He's a robot. We pretty much figured that out. Ohtani is just not made of human DNA, I'm pretty sure. And, you have all these other dudes, right? But to be honest, I love watching Bryce Harper to this day. He loves to kind of be a jerk every once in a while when he hits the ball a long way. But hey, you know what? It's baseball, right? So for me, Bryce Harper, I still remember when he charged the mound against the dude from the Giants and just whiffs with the helmet. I mean, just whiffs with the helmet. So that to me still will stand in time. But to me, number 3 is that for me. Number 2. Now, 1 and 2 was stupid hard, like dumb hard, because of all the prospects that I've ever been around. And to me, I'm gonna go with football here. And for me, as a Browns fan, I have to go with a Browns player because obviously, I might be one of the very few people that was super hyped up about Nick Chubb. I remember telling my friends, this dude is going to be legit. I was so excited. And I think most of my friends that weren't Browns fans were like, dude, he's a second round pick. I'm like, okay, tell me that in like 3 years. And look what he's done now. I mean, he is becoming the next Jim Brown. I hate to say that. Don't put that pressure on him. But in Brown's lore, he is becoming what's next to Jim Brown. So for me, Nick Chubb has lived up, if probably exceeded what we thought he was going to be. And as a Browns fan, Josh, if you disagree with that, then you can let me know. But I think Nick Chubb has been a prospect that I've loved and was so excited about.
So I don't think that I was able to be as excited for the Nick Chubb pick as most Browns fans, and that's because I was sold on Saquon being our first pick. Mm-hmm. And after we passed on him and took Baker Mayfield, and then Saquon goes number 2, I was livid, dude. I hated Baker Mayfield as a prospect, ended up liking him better as a pro for a little bit. But I wanted Saquon right there, and then since we took Nick Chubb, I'm like, oh, we just got like second round.
But have you been proven wrong? Have you been proven wrong?
Yeah, I've been proven wrong. I think Nick Chubb has had just as good, if not a better NFL career so far than Saquon.
That a baby.
I almost had Saquon as a prospect on this list,
of course,
but just missed the cut. Yeah, but that was one I was like, man, Saquon, dude, he's going to be the next great Cleveland Browns running back. He's going to help lead us back to winning seasons, to the playoffs, and I mean, he's done that in New York. He's been a big part of their offense, but Nick Chubb has not been disappointing at round 2.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's why I wasn't as hyped about that pick as you sounds like you were.
I was very hyped. I was super excited because I was like a Georgia running back. And I was like, Herschel Walker. That's all I can remember. I was like, oh, it's the only one I know.
Gurley just a couple seasons before though, too.
But I just was excited because I was like, the Browns finally got a running back. They didn't have to overpay for it because I remember Trent Richardson. I was so demoralized. I was like, just don't draft anyone in the first round. But
I gotcha. Number 2 for me is sticking in the baseball scene, and this was a guy that I tried to actually watch in double and triple.
Hank Aaron?
It was a guy that I tried to watch in double and triple A, but my schedules never aligned for it to happen, or he never came to like one of the Ohio minor league teams.
Yeah.
I was just dying to get to see him in the pros, dude, because I loved watching his dad play when I was a kid. And then once he came up, he has lived up to the hype and then some, I feel like. That's Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Dude's a man.
Started up as a third baseman, I think, has moved over to first base. He's been hitting tanks. He's been hitting for average. He's been a fun guy to watch in the All-Star games and the Home Run Derby. But that was one guy that I was like, man, I cannot wait to see this guy as a pro. Watching both Guerreros, hopefully have both of them have Hall of Fame careers.
Yeah,
it's been good.
I mean, he's going to be a stud in the long haul. I mean, if he hits a ball from the ground, off the ground for a home run, dude, he's met his dad's.
Like
if you don't know what I'm saying, go up on YouTube and look it up. It's pretty remarkable.
Vladimir Guerrero, bad ball hitting,
unreal. So Josh, number 1, who is it for you? Who's the number 1 prospect you've been most hyped about throughout any time you've been living?
This one was the easiest one to figure out, honestly.
Hold on. Do you feel like we're going the same way on this? You go first, but I wonder if we're going to go on the same one on this. Go.
We could.
Basketball's mine too, as well.
Yeah. Number 1 for me, this is easy. Zion Williamson, just from watching all the. Is that who you have?
Same. Yeah. Same.
Yep. I mean, watching all the tapes from high school and then getting to see him play in college. Like, Zion was the one guy that actually made me care about Duke basketball as a North Carolina fan. And would watch Duke games maybe just as much as North Carolina games.
Dude, I agree with you, though, man. Like, it was not even close for me. Like, Zion was in my list. Like, I just had to figure out where I was going to be. I'm like, dude, I've never been so excited to see a dude dunk on a 5'11" high school kid. Like, I've never been excited about seeing that. But I am.
And then I watched his NBA debut, dude. He had to start a little later in the season because of injury and stuff, but he was getting his minutes kind of limited. But anytime he was on the court, he was actually hitting threes, if I remember right.
Dude,
Like they're talking about him
yeah,
being a paint guy, and then he's just hitting threes. They were leaving him open, and he's draining them. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, Zion's going to be everything and more that they said he could be.
It's like but we said this, Josh. Zion has turned out to be one of those guys I don't think loves basketball. Like, I just don't think he loves basketball. Maybe he likes playing.
It does look that way now.
But maybe he just likes the fact that he gets a big old fat check every month and doesn't really have to worry about playing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just basketball is just a means to an end, which is get rich.
Sounds like Ben Simmons. Oh, I'm sorry. But it's been awesome to see. And so, yeah, Josh, I think this is the first time, Josh, I feel so good. This is the first time we're on the same page.
That we've had two guys.
We had two, and then we had almost every other sport was similar. Like we had the same sport or organized there, which is pretty cool. So I'm excited to see what our next top 5 will be. Let us know in the comments what you think the next top 5 should be. But I will say this. We do really appreciate, we had a lot of views last week on our video. We appreciate Chris obviously coming out last week. We do want to thank him for that. Let us know who you would like to hear us have on. Again, it's the summer months, man. It is fun. It is baseball season. Football is right around the corner. Believe it or not, people, football, like I start coaching. Obviously, my HFL season ended. We lost in the semifinals. We won't talk about it. But we do start like high school. I start coaching high school football here in Europe. High school football in America start getting ready to get started. So, hey, it is around the corner. So get ready for that to be happening, which is going to be a lot of fun for Josh and I to talk about some football coming up. So once again, we want to say thank you so much for watching. If you've loved watching on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Let us know that you love what you see. Comment below your favorite thing to do in the summer on July 4th weekend. What is it? What is your favorite thing? Is it cooking? Is it doing fireworks? Is it whatever it is? Maybe we'll talk about that next week, Josh. But let us know in the comments. And if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a favorite. Make sure you have it there saved so that way you can see it anytime it comes live. So once again, we want to say thank you. Have a great weekend. Until next time, we'll see ya.